Sure. My name is Stephen Witt. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and I'm a journalist and an author. My book is called How Music Got Free. The question I most commonly ask is, what would you do if your book got pirated? Because I'm writing so much about all of these famous albums, 50 Cent, Eminem, all these guys who were leaked and pirated weeks and months before their release dates. So, in fact, the same thing happened to me. On an underground torrent site, I watched somebody post a request of my book online. The way this works is these guys sort of request a bounty of data in respect for being the first person to show up with the book. It grew to about 100 gigabytes for my book, and that's a comparison to a file size of my book, which is like, the ebook size is like under a megabyte. So it did happen to me, and I know exactly how it feels like. The truth is, it's gratifying that people are interested in your work. I don't know if my publisher shares that opinion, though. I think the thing to understand about me is that I'm extremely lazy. This is why I became a writer in the first place. I don't really like waking up in the morning. So my work practice typically involves me lying in my bed with a laptop on my chest or my lap, just sort of typing away. I would say I wrote about 70% of my book in this fashion. I do most of my best writing while lying in bed. I try not to get out of bed if I can help it. Big influence structurally was William Gibson, who wrote Neuromancer. The book is structured in a similar fashion to another book he wrote called Count Zero. So it's sort of an iterative narrative that sort of cross-cuts between 3 different narrative lines, actually 4 different narrative lines. From the journalistic perspective, I think my influences would be, sort of the classic long-form narrative masters. So Michael Lewis I'm a huge fan of his. I really love David Simon's Homicide, which is the book that inspired The Wire and other TV shows. John Hersey's Hiroshima is sort of the classic in this genre. I don't think a better nonfiction book has ever been written, and I'm not sure it ever will be, considering both the quality of the writing and the historical impact. Yeah, I can't have any noise. If music is playing, I get completely distracted. If anyone's around me, I can't do a co-working space. I couldn't write here very well. Really, I have to be in bed. I don't have a job, so so I mostly just lie around all day. So my battery is usually pretty fully charged. When I sort of get drained of energy for writing, sometimes it can be hard to find inspiration. I do my best writing late at night, so what I'll do is I'll wake up around 2:30 or 3 in the afternoon, putz around, get a coffee. I eat a lot of ramen at a ramen noodle place near my house, and then I'll make one of those big 40-ounce pots of French press coffee and drink the entire thing. Probably starting to work around 9 or 10. So I'll sit down at the computer, then I'll screw around till about midnight. Then finally, I'll sort of in desperation and out of a certain sense of self-loathing start to write a few sentences or something. I tend to do my best work between midnight and 4 a.m. and then sort of grind out and fall asleep at around 6 in the morning, and then repeat the process, sleeping all day and waking up at 2. Yeah, it's the word seemingly, which I use about once every 100 words. I'm not sure why. I have a real weakness for adverbial conjoinders, basically. I have a weakness for adverbs, is what I'm trying to say. So I'll often be writing, and things will always be seemingly, or like presently, etc. Suddenly is a terrible one that I use all the time. I write quickly, and it's pretty sloppy on the first draft, so I really do have to go back and tune it up. In terms of topics that I want to tackle, this is an open question. I have not found yet the thing for my next book. My agent tells me not to tell people that, but I haven't found it yet. I think what this book ended up being about, it's more than just a technical history of something. It's about the way that technology reshapes the social order. And I see that happening in a more rapid pace every day. There's other stuff out there. I want to continue to write about the internet, but I also want to continue to write about people. I'll know it when I see it. Right now, I would say my primary interest, I can't tell if this is a book or just a magazine article, is the militarization of artificial intelligence technology and the concept of things like autonomous drones. So we have drones. We know a lot about that. I think what's less covered is, it's actually possible now to flip a switch. The guy walks away from the computer and the drone flies itself. And in theory, it could kill you. Like Terminator. Well, I'm an atheist, so this is kind of a hard question for me. I guess when I think about this stuff, you sort of wonder, will you have any kind of legacy? And the answer is no. No matter how well you write it, eventually, an asteroid's going to plunge into the Earth and get rid of all of this. Alternatively, we may upload everything to the cloud, but even that it's not guaranteed. So I guess if I were to ask this question or answer this question, it's like, what's the time horizon of what the thing you write? How long is it going to be useful or interesting to people? Outside of just like an academic sphere? The answer for most writers is probably about 5 to 10 years. Because I'm writing about technology in a very specific way, it could be even less for me. There's a great line, though, by Roger Ebert in a review he wrote of a movie called A Separation, which is an Iranian movie which won the best Oscar or best foreign film Oscar a few years back. And he talks about how because the director, was so able to perfectly capture this particular time and space in history, that actually gives it an immortal quality, because whenever anybody wants to know what that's like, they'll refer back to it. So I think what I try to learn from that is, rather than writing about really universal themes, I actually try to be very specific and write about a very specific time and place. And paradoxically, I think that has the possibility to make it last longer. Well, now everybody's a writer. They're all on Twitter yelling at each other. Write an Instagram comment, you're a writer. Interestingly, everything is now preserved for posterity, even sort of, like meaningless conversations and chatter. In isolation, that's pretty worthless, but because of the way technology is progressing, you sort of have these gigantic data sets of everything that everyone was saying to each other at a specific or given time. So maybe in the past you had writers like Dickens or other people who would sort of wander out into the mass of the public and really try and capture how public discourse was occurring at a very basic level. You don't really need to do that anymore. We have a record of all of it. So we're all writers now.